Welcome everyone to the top four of the Toowoomba Highlander competitive Highlander event. I'm Tyrone, and joined with me is Ben, one of the locals.
Hey, how's it going?
So this is the top four. Like we said, we have Alana on Breach. I think it's 5-color Breach Brain Freeze deck on the top, and Cameron on Jund on the bottom. So straight out the gates, how do you feel about this matchup? Who do you think is advantaged? I guess both these players got to the top four by fighting through lots of stuff, but who do you think is advantaged in this?
I think the Jund deck has a potential to have a very, very good start if it can get a very aggressive opening hand. If you can keep mostly hands with meaningful interaction into a very early threat, you should stand a decent chance. That being said, the Breach deck can just win off one card, so...
That's very true, that's very true. Inquisition is a fantastic start. It's exactly what the Jund deck needs. Like you say, the Breach deck can win off one card, and there it is, intuition. But it also gives you a lot of information, I suppose, which is really, really handy. So what do you think you'd be taking here? What would you be interested in?
So I know what he does pick, and I think it's a good pick. But I would take the intuition. It all depends on what Cameron has in his hand, of course. I don't know what he has in his hand right now. I haven't seen it yet, but yeah.
For sure. It's a weird kind of hand, this one. Like, the Thoughtseize has the threat to take away your powerful threat. If you've got something like Atomic Glyph, then Thoughtseize is a good choice. The Uro is just kind of a hard card to get rid of, but also it's going to the graveyard anyway.
You also really don't want to put an Uro in the graveyard.
Really combo pieces.
It always feels bad.
Yeah, it's never great. But Thoughtseize makes sense. So leaving two combo pieces in your opponent's hand is definitely scary, but it also means you have the information that they can combo out. So I'm not sure. If you were a deck that running counter spells, it would make more sense to me, but I'm not sure what his plan is here.
Well, there's his first plan, which is Mana Denial. Puts a Wasteland down and takes a mana away. Yeah,
look, Wasteland and Deathrite Shaman is something that I've died to a lot.
Yeah, the follow-up Deathrite Shaman really hurts.
No, that's exactly the start that Jund wants, honestly. Like a bit of hand hate, bit of disruption, bit of, Deathrite Shaman.
A nice early threat, of course.
Absolutely. So, what do you think both players are trying to do from this point? Where are they trying to get to? What are they trying to want to do? Is Alana trying to combo out as hard as possible, or is she going to try and slowly grind this game out with her Uro, perhaps?
Well, obviously she has to get to the mana to cast the Uro first. If I'm where Alana is right now, I want to be trying to dig as deep as I can to try and find something meaningful. A lot of her hand is not very meaningful for what's going on right now.
Yep, that makes sense. And this being a 5-color deck, she does have answers to pretty much anything.
Yeah, there's I believe there's things like Abrupt Decay and Trophy in the deck as well. So there's definitely answers to almost everything.
But as we are, this is like modern Jund on steroids. Oh my god, Deathrite Shaman, Wasteland, Lily, it's all going off here. This is
it's actually a bit of a nightmare start for Alana's deck. I actually got crushed in round 1 by her, so it is a powerful deck.
Yeah. Discarding a land is interesting. That, to me, would imply that she's drawn a couple extra ones from this point, because she had 3, I believe, originally in her opening hand.
Yeah, I think the choice to discard a land there signals that she definitely has more to spare. I would be looking to discard something that does nothing, similar to like a Brain Freeze, but it is also part of her main win combo, so...
Yep. I think I'd be tempted to discard the Uro as well.
That as well, yes.
No, sorry. I guess I'd get exiled by Deathrite. That's a bad time.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is why I don't play Magic. I just judge it. Now, Lily is extremely good against this sort of deck. Like, this is a combo control deck, and Lily is incredibly good against both of those archetypes. So,
yep.
I think Cameron's in a commanding position right now.
Definitely is. The longer that Liliana sits there and just ticks up, the worse it's going to get for Alana. She'll eventually have to deploy enough lands to cast things, but also get rid of the rest of her key cards. So,
yeah.
There we see a Gifts Ungiven going to the bin. That is not a good time.
So, mana advantage is also kind of huge right now. Cameron's up 2 mana to Alana's to 4 to 2, which is massive.
Yeah, it's very strong.
That said, she does have that brain freeze and that intuition, so it's not unreasonable for her to just play a land on his end step, cast intuition, and just win the game on the spot.
So being from
Death Ray Shaman can definitely interact with that.
Yeah, definitely. Being from the mid-range side of it, if you're playing something like Jund or Abzan or whatever, and that you kind of reach a point where you have to just play a threat and hope you can kill them in time against decks like this, and you will definitely get to that point. So here we see the Huntmaster of the Fells coming down. Definitely a really solid clock. If Alana doesn't keep finding land, though, and doing something, it's going to end badly.
Absolutely. Yep, absolutely. Now, the Huntmaster is a huge increase in the clock. So, what about the Liliana ult? I think there's quite a decent chance that this Liliana never gets attacked this game. The game either ends before she goes off, or, well, we get to ult. So, do you think it's better to just keep stripping cards out of the hand if they've got 2 or 3 cards left, or is it better to just ult and kill half their lands?
Almost always better to, in this situation against this style of deck, always just use her uptick, taking a card. You really want to have the combo player empty-handed if possible. Jund plays all its threats proactively on its turn. Obviously, with Liliana, you can break that symmetry. It's very good.
Yep. And having these early threats, seeing the hand, all the tap lands coming down, she really is on the back foot. Like, she really can't play the control game. She really has to just find that combo and just go for it, I think.
Yeah. Unfortunately, with the hand she kept, I don't think there's a massive amount of digging she can do unless she draws into something very lucky. The Uro really needs to come down and start doing something. Otherwise, this game's almost a lost cause, just from that early backbreaking wasteland into Deathrite Shaman.
Yep. But that Deathrite Shaman, again, is going to just hold that Uro back as well.
It definitely will, yeah.
A 3-mana Explorer is not fantastic. Well, there's that Intuition in the graveyard, so that plan is gone as well.
That's it. Give Liliana enough time on the board and she'll take everything.
Your money, your life, all your cards? Yeah, no. And a flipped Huntmaster as well, Fort of the Dome. Yeah, nah. This is looking very desperate for one of our players. Honestly, at this point, I'm not sure what kind of thing she would need, like a board wipe or something, but that doesn't even deal with the Liliana.
I think if she can deal with at least one of the major threats, which would be the Liliana or the Huntmaster, she stands a chance to rip something. Ro here might buy her some time.
But it's only buying time. It's not really doing anything proactive. It's, probably going to get eaten by the Deathrite Shaman, and, it gains some life, but the things she's doing are things that she wants to be doing in a slow, grindy, control sort of game when your opponent isn't doing that much, and Cameron is not. I've not described what Cameron is doing as not doing much.
He's definitely doing enough to seal this first game if he gets there.
Yep, absolutely. I got to say though, that graveyard over there in the top right corner is top left corner, I suppose, is going to be flipped, is causing me some stress. I'm not sure what's happening over there. Messy graveyard.
We see a Leovold, an Uro, definitely an Intuition, and a Gifts. There we go. We see the Deathrite Shaman putting in more work, eating the Uro on her end step.
Yep. Cutting that avenue off. Now, the Lily ult is available here. I'd be certainly tempted. Honestly, I'd be very, very tempted. Though I suppose, realistically, if she's drawn, I don't know, I mean, she's got a Brain Freeze, she's got 2 cards, 3 cards. If she had like a...
2 cards in hand. It looked to be a Simmons Reclamation and a Lotus Petal.
I guess there's always a chance. If she were to draw an Underworld Breach, there might be an opportunity here. To be fair...
I think if she naturally draws it, there is a chance, but...
Yeah.
A lot of her avenues are gone now, being with Intuition and Gifts in the graveyard as well.
For sure, yeah. That's I guess one of the weaknesses of Deathrite Shaman against this deck. It doesn't eat artifacts, and the Breach deck really cares about there being artifacts in its graveyard, not anything else in particular, to win through that combo.
It does eat one key piece of the combo, which is Brain Freeze.
True, but often the Brain Freeze won't, the point where you have priority, the Brain Freeze should be on the stack, I believe, so it'll resolve and then the priority will go back to the active player, so they can immediately cast it again if they have the mana already. So they can play around it, but if they don't have enough cards in their graveyard, then yep, absolutely. now. So the Huntmasters come in, the tokens come in, the Death Red Shaman's finally gone. Well, I
I
assume.
think she found some meaningful interaction there.
A little bit late, maybe too little too late.
Definitely.
Yeah, I really feel that these tap lands have been a bit of a... not that I suppose the cards she's drawn have been ones that would have allowed her to do more if she had these tap lands, but it really feels like it could be a bit of an issue. Okay, no,
there we go.
over.
We see the scoop.
Yeah, nah. Huge pressure. Look, that was exactly what Jund wants. Pressure, interaction, looking at your hand, killing your lands, ramping out of control.
Yep. Definitely a dream start for a aggressive mid-range deck against a combo deck there.
Yep, for sure. So, let's have a look at these guys' sideboards. So in Cameron's sideboard, we have a Duress, Nile Spellbomb, Pyroblast, Red Blast, Veil of Summer, Braid, Collector Roof, Null Rod, Anger of the Gods, Ashiok Dreamrender, Choke, Fairy Macabre, Plague Engineer, Fiery Confluence, and Force of Vigor. What do you think you would want to bring in this matchup?
So anything meaningful that can cut off mana is a big thing. So things like Choke and Ashiok are quite backbreaking. She's playing a lot of those triomes and duels.
Yeah,
it's going to be a nightmare if those things land. And paving the way for them isn't that hard, especially if you have hand disruption, which leads me to the other point. I'm probably bringing in that Duress. It's going to do a lot of work as a third single pip disruption spell. Other key ones are things that can nuke the yard entirely. We do play a Tarmogoyf in this kind of deck, of course, but it's better than losing the game. So Nihil Spellbomb is pretty big.
What about the Blasts? This is a 5-color deck, realistically, so there are going to be lots of cards that the Blasts don't deal with, and they're sure not great against the actual combo.
They do stop a lot of blue, of course, but there's actually not that many blue cards in this deck when you look at it.
Yeah, I don't know. I think the fact that it stops Gift and Intuition might be enough for me. I mean, it also kills, Narset, Oko being there, Teferi, Time Reveler.
If you're looking for a way out of things like a grindy kind of game, which I believe is the main plan that Alana would have to be going for game 2 and 3 here, is a little bit less reliance on the combo. If her hand gets ripped apart like it did in that first game, it's not going to be good. So she's going to be relying really heavily on things like Uro and that Leovold to get the work done.
Or a fast combo kill would be really fantastic too. If
definitely, especially on the play.
Yeah. If Cameron has like an aggressive start that's not very disruptive, then the fast combo would be very good. The card that I really like is Veil of Summer. It sort of does everything. It stops the Gifts Ungiven, but it also stops the Brain Freeze, and it also stops your giant dude getting Oko'd down or whatever. It just does everything.
It definitely does. That's a good point. We're going to see more than likely a Veil of Summer from both players coming in. Alana also has one in her side. What else do you think she might be considering bringing in? There's a lot of answer cards in her sideboard. So we're looking at an Ancient Grudge, Blue Elemental Blast, Carpet of Flowers, Collector Roof, Fairy Macabre, Force of Negation, Hydroblast, Pernicious Deed, Pyroclasm, a Ravenous Trap, Red Elemental Blast, Soul Guide Lantern, Submerge, Sylvan Library, and of course the Veil of Summer.
Yep, I like the Veil a lot. It's really, really good. Other than that, there's not the greatest amount of things. Pernicious Deed is fantastic. It's going to almost always be a 2 for 1, I think. And Submerge can really slow down the Jund player. But there's not a huge amount else. The Sylvan Library, perhaps, but there are going to be situations where your life total is so pressured that you're not going to be able to use it very effectively. What do you reckon?
I think on the play, Sylvan Library is probably a decent card. It can help draw you out of hands where the Jund deck has ripped, the key piece you need out of them.
Yep.
Just by being a bit more aggressive and of course, basically scrying 3 every turn is pretty good.
Yep.
Pernicious Deed, I think, is quite good. Jund wants permanence on the field. That cleanly answers almost everything the deck does except for Planeswalkers, which is quite nice.
Yeah, absolutely. Pernicious Deed, Blue Blasts are an option. I think Jund has less red cards than any other colour in its deck, but they certainly do deal with a lot of the cards in the deck. They're clean answers to a solid number of things.
Well, importantly, it answers things like Wrenn and 6, which is a nightmare if it ever comes down with something like a Strip Mine or a Wasteland.
Absolutely. Even if it just comes down with a fetch land, Alana's deck isn't really going to be pressuring life totals very much, so if Cam loses 10 of his own life from fetch lands, it doesn't really matter that much. He's okay with that, I think.
That's a point.
So it looks like Cam has quite a solid sideboard, like a lot of cards to take in and out. But the nature of a combo deck, Alana can't quite squeeze as many things out I'm expecting.
Yeah, I think she's only looking to shave a couple pieces here, just to fit in a couple meaningful high-impact cards. I wouldn't really be looking to do much more. There is a lot of value in her deck list to begin with, which she can probably lean pretty heavily on that plan going into this next game on the play.
Yep, for sure, yeah. Now, she does also have a nice little package of Wheel of Fortune and Hullbreacher, with also the new Wheel of Fortune, I believe, the one that casts from graveyards.
Yeah, the Echo of Eons, definitely.
That's a cute little interaction. Alright, so both players have led on lands. Fantastic. And looks like no one has a 1-drop, which is interesting.
Both players are playing plenty of 1-drops, so yeah.
Yep. I guess Triomes are sort of like 1-drops, right? Like, I believe this deck is running 5 Triomes, which really shows
it's a lot.
The strength of this mana base. It is insane. I hope for her sake she didn't face too many Blood Moon decks throughout the day, but I guess she got this so she must have done well against them.
Yeah. I played against her in round 1, as I said earlier, and let me tell you, those Triomes, they do something.
Yeah, look, honestly, if someone starts sleeving up like Blood Moons and Prices of Progress, and there's that Wasteland again. Speak of the devil, he's back again. But no, I think personally, one of the best cards against these breach decks is something that both of these players have in their sideboard, which is a Fairy Macabre, just because it's so hard to interact with and it's so cheap and easy, and it's 0 mana. You can use it whenever.
Yep, can't be counterspelled. It's great.
Yep. It's something that the decks just aren't really designed to beat, I suppose. Sometimes, and you can honestly win with it. If your opponent mills their entire deck out before targeting you with the Brain Freeze, you can just... Actually, no, probably... No, that's probably a way out avenue there, but either way. I'm a really big fan of Fairy Macabre if you're trying to beat breach decks like this. These sort of fair, mid-rangey, control-y breach decks.
I imagine the best scenario is you just take away one piece of the combo whenever they go to cast Savin's Reclamation, and it's over almost at that point.
Yep. For sure. Wasteland into Strip Mine, just like Richard Garfield intended.
This is peak magic.
I too like to have a very minimum number of permanents on the field. It makes life simple for us. But I think this unless Alana's got a very land-heavy hand, this is very, very good for our Jund player down here.
Well, to be fair, Cameron only has 1 land on the field at the moment too, so it is setting him back quite a lot of tempo. But yeah, it never feels great to fetch up a 3-color land tapped and then have it strip mined.
Yep. I guess the downside is he doesn't have a 1-drop himself either at this point, so he is also sort of spinning his wheels to an extent a bit.
Yeah, not a lot of action yet.
That said, in general, traditionally Jund, the idea of playing a Jund deck is all of your top decks are better than your opponent's top decks. And I think that's definitely true in a matchup where your opponent can draw Lotus Petal and Wheel of Fortune.
Yeah, we definitely saw the culmination of that ethos in game 1. Just sitting behind that Liliana, playing everything that he drew to the board, and then just taking all of his opponent's cards. Pure Jund.
Absolutely. So Scavenging Ooze is a main board graveyard hate piece that a lot of the Jund decks are playing, and is probably going to be doing a lot of work in this matchup. It's one of those sort of innocuous cards that, if your opponent never puts any breach combo pieces in the graveyard, it doesn't feel like it did much, but that's maybe because they were holding them because they knew they just get eaten.
It does do a lot of work in particular moments, but sometimes it can just be a bear.
Yeah.
Right now, it's not doing a lot, but it definitely does threaten something.
Yep. I have heard people say recently though that the more powerful cards you put in your deck, the more just kind of medium cards you can put around them. So sometimes a bear will get the job done, If you kill your first creatures, yeah. Alright, and a bit of the first spell of the game cast by Alana here. after having 5 lands in the graveyard.
This is definitely a slow starting game.
So, I suppose, obviously, the thing you probably need if you're Alana here is more lands, right? You've lost 2 of them already. Unless you kept a very high land count hand, you're probably needing more of those. But if you were in Cameron's spot, what would you want to be doing this turn?
So if I am playing on Cameron's side, I would love to find some sort of hand disruption. I haven't seen anything yet. She has cast a Preordain and has done a lot of land things, so there's got to be heaps and heaps of fuel in that hand by now. Playing a Raging Ravine into a Demonic Tutor. So he's going to go look for something interactive. Yeah, I hope.
Get the best card in his deck. I mean, I'd be very tempted to go grab a Renin 6 at this point if I was Cameron here.
Well, a Renin 6 to hand here definitely seals the game if he can resolve it and then get to play those lands one more time. Alana really wants to untap with 3 to 4 mana. This might happen very soon, especially with Cameron tapping down here.
Yep.
It's the scary moment for the Jund player here, basically.
Yeah, if I was in Alana's spot, the thing that I would want to be doing here is playing a removal spell on this Scooze at some point in this turn, and then untapping, playing land, and just holding up like a Gifts Ungiven or something, maybe some counter spells. That'd be ideal. There isn't a huge amount of pressure on her life total, which is really nice, but you got to be scared of that Demonic Tutor. Something bad's coming soon. Yeah,
there's definitely something either very quick or very interactive coming out of that.
Yep. If I tell you what though, if I was Cameron, I'd be sorely tempted to grab a Bloodbraid Elf and just spin the wheel and hope for the best. The adds clock, card advantage, you never know, might be a Renin 6, could be anything.
But it's definitely something. That's the best case scenario. There we go. We see the Renin 6 now. Yep. More than likely his Demonic Tutor target. We might see a little bit of interaction here.
Interesting that he... Oh, yep, there's a Blue Blast.
Yeah, makes sense. Definitely a very good choice.
Interesting that he didn't leave up a green mana for that Scavenging Ooze. And, okay, if his plan was to tap out for the Null Rod the entire time, that makes sense.
So, what do you think would have happened if you sequenced the other way?
Again, there's not really much pressure going on here, but the Null Rod is definitely something that stops that combo.
There are definitely a couple answers in Alana's list, and I think I saw a couple more in her sideboard as well, though.
Yeah,
so it's possible she has an out to it.
Look, at the same time, playing an Uro and hitting Cam a bunch is a really good answer to Null Rod. But I believe there's a 3 fairy in there, a few other bits and pieces. There are definitely ways to deal with this. But she's at a point now where she's got 4 mana, so realistically, I think this is where she wants to sort of be sitting. About 4 mana is where this deck really seems to be able to do most things it wants to do.
It definitely shines. You want to have most of your colours, of course, by this point, but yeah, the clock isn't super fast against her, so she might be able to find a way to sneak a cheeky end-of-turn gifts or intuition out here.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Pressure and interaction are the things you need to beat a control combo deck like this. And there's been plenty of interaction, but there's not been much pressure so far.
Yeah, she's actually recovered pretty well from having a Wasteland and a Strip Mine early game. A lot of decks, if they're not casting a lot of cantrips, can't really beat that, but her land seemed to flow pretty well.
Yeah. And you got to be happy with that from Alana's side, for sure. Also, I don't believe there's any creatures in the graveyard either, so this Scooze is likely to stay small as it is for a little while here.
Yep, it's the best 2/2 you've ever seen.
Yeah, like you said, it's a bear sometimes, and I guess now's the time. Well, that said, I suppose there is also a Raging Ravine if Cam just wants to completely tap out. If there's nothing else better in his hand, he could always just send that guy in sideways. That does increase the clock by a significant amount.
I think it comes down to a 2-turn clock if he starts doing that. Whatever he's casting now might increase this as well.
Yep.
Oh, a Tarmogoyf. That'll definitely add a little bit.
That's a clock. So it looks like our life totals at this point are... I believe Alana's on 13 and Cameron's on 17. So, yeah.
Alana's side... Oh, an intuition. We might see some really, really crazy stuff happening here in a second if she gets the good old slush puppy pile.
Yeah, for sure. Now, Deathrite has the weakness that it can't exile artifacts, but Scavenging Ooze does not share that one. And he does have
open mana.
Yeah. So I'm sort of thinking maybe this won't be. Maybe this will be just a value sort of file. Maybe it's going to be 3 board wipes or something like that.
Yeah,
I could be
potentially
wrong,
something to deal with the null rod or maybe the Tarmogoyf. If you can get that off the board, the clock is still pretty slow.
Yeah. I'm not sure what answers she would have, but yeah, I guess we'll find out. Intuition is a very an interesting one. It's not really seen much sort of fair play. Apparently, the story behind that card it was designed by Mark Rosewater back in the day, and originally he wanted it to be templated like Gifts Ungiven, where you could get 3. We had to get 3 separate cards, but apparently the playtest had really liked the fact that you could get 3 of the same card, and so they left it like that. And then Kamigawa came around, he sort of fixed it with Gifts Ungiven.
Yeah.
Obviously, in this format, not as relevant.
It all doesn't mean much in a singleton. They're basically the same card.
You could be playing, Relentless Rats or whatever. I don't know.
Oh yeah.
7 Dwarves.
7 Dwarves. There you go.
Get them. Yeah. Oh look, the moment someone intuitions for 3 7 Dwarves, I'm just conceding on the spot. I don't think I can.
Pretty
play
much, they've earned that win.
Yep.
I'm really curious to see what Alana pulls out here. There we go. We've got a interactive hand by the looks of it. We've got a lightning bolt, swords to plowshares, and is that a drown in the lock? I think.
Interesting. Very interesting.
So she's looking for a way to slow down the clock, or potentially answer that, or answer something.
Yeah, definitely interesting. So, I guess one interesting thing here is lightning bolt doesn't kill the Tarmogoyf, whereas the other 2 spells do. Drown in the Lock can't be cast on this end step, so there's definitely some choices here.
I would pick the lightning bolt here. I think if the Scavenging Ooze dies, it's not that critical.
Yep.
If she's going to go off, she's going to go off eventually anyway. The Scavenging Ooze dying means that the Null Rod is more than likely safe for a little bit longer as well. The Tarmogoyf is just going to get bigger and bigger and kill her in 2 turns.
Yeah. I guess it's an interesting choice. Like, you can let the Screws die and hope the Null Rod sort of holds her off a little bit longer. I suppose the choice from Cameron's side is, do you think it is better to have the Disruptive Scavenging Ooze or the Clock of Tarmogoyf?
Well, I think that's what his choice will say to her. I don't think he's going to pick the Swords to Plowshares, put it that way.
Sure, yep. Okay, Drown in the Lock. I think this is a good choice. The reason I think it's really good is because Alana can't cast it right now. Like, she could bolt or swords right now, but she can't Drown in the Lock, so he's taking off a bit more mana on his opponent's next turn.
Yep, that's definitely critical.
But that's a very interesting choice. Very interesting choice. I suppose a bit of mind games could go on here. If Cameron decided that his Scavenging Ooze was the more important of the 2 creatures, he could give Alana a Sword Splashes in the hopes that she exiled the Tarmogoyf, but that's a pretty wild play, I suppose.
I'm not entirely sure you would want to be giving her that kind of flexibility, but yeah, it would definitely be a mind games kind of play. The Scavenging Ooze is doing something, 100%. Whenever he passes turn with some of that green mana up, it's saying, hey, have fun, try and combo.
Yeah. No, it's definitely the sort of situation where if you think your opponent values your cards differently to how you value them, that's where you want to be going for that route, I think. But
yeah,
no, I think it's probably wrong unless you're going deep into the mind games. It's an LSV sort of play,
Yep. I like the Lightning Bolt as well there. Of course, the Swords to Plowshares is definitely not an option, but the Lightning Bolt says, hey, this Tarmogoyf's going to kill you. Try and beat it.
Yep. But no, I think personally the Drown in the Lock is my choice as well. The fact that you can't use it on that turn.
Yeah.
It just eats up. It's kind of like using it's like Lightning Bolt is 1 mana in this situation. Drown in the Lock is 3 mana because she lost 1 mana from that end step as well.
Yeah, it's definitely a little bit of a taxing effect there.
So
Cameron with plenty of mana now.
Yeah, so she killed the Scavenging Ooze. You don't think that's the right choice?
It's hard to say. I'm not entirely sure what she has in hand. Cameron definitely has a very fast clock on the table right now. Those graveyards are stacked. There's a creature, there's a planeswalker, there's instant sorcery land. That's a big Tarmogoyf. If she answers the Null Rod, it gets even bigger. We've got a Raging Ravine on the table too, which cannot be forgotten about.
Oh yeah, for sure. 5, 6. Yeah, nah. When the Jund player starts counting on their hands, you know there's a Tarmogoyf involved. Speaking of that Raging Ravine,
I think the Drown in the Lock choice was definitely a very, very good bit of tempo play there. It's given Cameron enough time to get that Raging Ravine up and swinging, saying, hey, can you answer this? Also, can you answer the Null Rod? Also, can you answer this?
Yep, for sure. And I suppose if he'd given it a Lightning Bolt, the situation would have been the same, right? The screws would have died. But it's all about, I think, again, in this situation, it's all about what card you think your opponent cares more about.
Yeah, buying himself that extra turn definitely paid off.
Yep. If you do think that your opponent should care about the Tarmogoyf more, though, then picking the Bolt is definitely a good choice. So it's an interesting one. Swing for 9. That's a lot. That's not much left on the other side of the table there.
I definitely think that the fact that Alana had to intuition for 3 pieces of interaction signals really hard as well. Yep. If you're sitting with a Tarmogoyf and a Scavenging Ooze on your side of the field and your opponent does that, they don't have a lot going on in their hand that can stop it all.
Yep, absolutely. I think the thing that could sort of start to turn this game around perhaps would be, I don't know, I was going to say an Underworld Breach right now just to sort of kill the Tarmogoyf, but then the Raging Ravine's sitting around, because that one's pretty hard to get rid of on your own turn.
If I'm Alana, I think I want to play that Omnath into a fetch land.
Yep.
Just something to block anything.
Yeah, that's a good point. Omnath is an absolute powerhouse in this deck.
I think she goes down to 5 here after that attack.
And
which is very critical.
Alright, if I was Cameron, I would be very scared right now that my Null Rod is gone, shield's down. I'm on the aggro plan, but I got no protection.
Yes. You never want to see this. He's got 1 Bayou up, so he's got black and green available mana. Maybe holding up something like a Veil of Summer, potentially.
Okay, yep, Veil of Summer would be fantastic if Milan does go for that kill. He only needs to buy a single more turn. That said, there is a Lightning Bolt in the graveyard, so the Veil of Summer will not stop the Lightning Bolt kill if she can just rebuy that over and over and over again.
Yeah, that's very true.
Wheel of Fortune!
Here we go.
Alright, okay, so kill the Null Rod, and then we're back in desperation mode. I don't think... it seems to me that this this Null Rod destruction was very much a hopeful sort of thing.
It looks like she's discarded a Ravenous Trap and a Brain Freeze and a Gifts there. And a Mental Misstep.
Yeah. Interesting. I guess her hope is just
again,
to
looking
draw...
for answers.
Yeah, she needs like a land and an Underworld Breach and a Lion's Eye Diamond. That'd be pretty good.
That'll do it.
Well, we will see. But if it's not this turn, then I think Jund may have this wrapped up.
It's definitely a scary position to be in if you're Cameron here. Your opponent's doing all these powerful things like drawing 7 cards and
yeah, you drew 7 cards too.
Yeah.
Oh well, okay.
There's 2 here we go.
Crack the LED. Sorry, crack the LED straight off the bat. Okay, so there's no breach yet.
But there is a Savin's Reclamation. Alana goes to pick it up immediately out of the graveyard. We might see that being cast.
Mm-hmm. That's pretty cool. So yeah, there's a Hull Breacher. This graveyard's getting messier and messier as time goes by.
An Echo of Eons as well. There's another wheel.
Oh wow, okay. Huh, interesting. I guess you could like Savine's Rec for Hull Breacher and LED, and then cast your wheel again. She's fingering those cards. It could be happening.
Yep, it looks like that's what's happening. We're seeing a Hull Breacher. She picked it up, put it on the top of her graveyard there, so I imagine she wants to bring that back.
Yep. There's not too many permanents in the graveyard, I don't think. Mostly lands.
I still think she needs to find another answer. The Hull Breacher alone does not stop a Raging Ravine and a Tarmogoyf. She's on 5 life. Both of those hit for 5 next turn. The Raging Ravine getting that second counter.
Yep. That said, Hull Breacher and flashing back that Echo of Aeons does give her 7 mana.
Yeah, it's very true.
But a Cling to Dust, oh my god. Well, mission failed.
So she's flashback Sabin's Reclamation targeting the Hull Breacher and the Lion's Eye Diamond, and what's he gonna choose?
Looks like the LED. No, the Hull Breacher.
No,
okay.
they chose the Hull Breacher. Okay.
Well, that's pretty rough. That's a good time to Wheel of Fortune into a Graveyard 8. Absolutely fantastic. Honestly, I think there's a decent chance this game would have ended like almost immediately if Alana had drawn 7 cards and gotten 7 mana off that Hull Breacher. So that was a very timely draw by Cameron.
Very much so. That was probably the most meaningful piece he could ever have right there.
Yep.
Which leaves Alana in a sticky situation. She's got 2 5 damage threats on board with 5 life and 3 mana and an Echo of Eons. It is about all the action she's got left.
Yeah, like she is flashbacking the Echo of Eons. Oh my god, this graveyard! I don't know
Which will
what's happening.
technically answer the Tarmogoyf. Both their graveyards get shuffled into their libraries, I believe.
Huh. That's a good point. That's a very good point. But it doesn't answer the Raging Ravine. She's played a land for the turn. I guess she kind of just has to. I don't know what can she draw to survive here.
Lotus Petal Swords to Plowshares.
That's the one. That's the line. All right. Yep. No, I'm into it.
Hey, it's a line. It's better than nothing.
Very true. Play to your outs, kids. Play to your outs. I guess another out she has is Cameron forgetting to activate his Raging Ravine.
That would be an interesting game.
I've done that before. I also saw a Force of Vigor get discarded by Cameron after that Wheel of Fortune, which is an interesting sideboard choice. Oh, and that is the handshake. Game over.
Looks like she didn't draw into anything reasonable there, and we're done.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much for joining us, everybody. We hope you enjoyed the coverage. We'll see you next time.
Thank you. See yous.